Good morning again to everyone. Am I audible? And is the presentation already visible? Just give me a heart or thumbs up reaction, please. All right, thank you. So again, the discussion material for this topic is already available in the G Drive. And if you are already my student before, it's just the same, no? I'll be recording the discussion again so that later on, after I finish with all my classes, I can upload it also in the G Drive. Just take note that the discussion materials will be accessible within the week nung topic na yon. So for example, every Monday tayo, no? So expect nyo na that by Sunday, hindi na po magiging accessible yung mga discussion material. But I do think, no, yung isang week naman na yon enough na to go over. If there are notes na hindi natin na-take down during the discussion, I'm doing that also so that in a way, kung merong mga gustong balikan na topics, hindi nasulat, no, because of the flow of the discussion, medyo mahaba kasi and I cannot dwell too long on one slide para at least mabalikan nyo po. Okay? Sige, I'll just be accepting some of the students, then we will start the discussion. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
All right, so the focus of our discussion today is introduction, and later on the cellular injury and cellular adaptation. So let's start with the definition of pathology. So pathology, breakdown natin, it came from two Greek words. We have pathos, which means pain or suffering. And logos, which means the study of. So mainly, meaning to say we are studying here pain or suffering or the illness of a person. It is also called as your pathobiology. Now, according to Virchow, no, all diseases daw, they originate at the cellular level. But hindi lang pala dun sa cellular level natin makikita yung underlying diseases, even in the molecular aspect, no? Up to the molecular aspect, cellular aspect, they will give us clues as to why the patient is experiencing that illnesses. Now, pathology can be subdivided into two. Pwedeng autopsy, pwedeng biopsy. Now, for autopsy, Greek words, auto and opsis. Auto meaning self or oneself, and opsis, which means sight. So you are viewing, no? Viewing something into your own eyes. But in this case, sa autopsy, ang view dito, yung mga cadaver or dead people. So we are studying here in autopsy a dead person. This is also called as necropsy. So necropsy from the Greek word necros. Necros meaning corpse. And then same, no? Opsis meaning to view or sight. It can also be called as post-mortem examination or pag nakita niyo yung PME in pathology, it may mean as post-mortem examination. Mortem here is a Latin word which means death. So mainly, we are studying a cadaver, a dead person, pag tinawag na autopsy, necropsy, or post-mortem examination. On the other hand, pag buhay naman yung ating isa-study, no? Any cell, organ that is coming from a living organism, we generally call that as a biopsy. So bio meaning life, no? So buhay pa yung ine-examine natin. Now, the cells or tissue or the organ that we're going to view here can be coming from an excision. So, excised material the totality or the total one whole organ, or pwedeng kumuha lang tayo ng kapiraso kung ano lang po yung site in question. So incision, magkukuha lang tayo ng part, kung ano yung mga types of incision or mga surgical operations that we can do and utilize for biopsy. We will discuss that next week. But for now, no, yung dalawa, we have autopsy, basta examining a cadaver or a dead person. Biopsy naman, living person naman. And that sample coming from a biopsy can be excision, pag total or one whole, incision naman, or kukuha lang tayo ng part of that specific site in question. Now, there are some terminologies that we need to be familiar with. First, we have etiology. Pag sinabi nating etiology, it simply means the cause. So, ano yung sanhe or reason of the illness or the cause of something in pathology. Pag sinabi namang pathogenesis, no? So, pag naririnig yung genesis, it will deal more on the mechanism or development, no? Development or the mechanism of development. As for the morphologic change, mainly meaning the structural alterations. So ano yung mga physical attributes na nabago after nilagyan ng ganitong reagent or kapag may certain illness, ano yung nagbabago dun sa kanyang structure. Pag sinabi namang clinical significance, ano yung importance? What will happen, no? What will happen naman if there's a certain illness na nagkaroon yung pasyente? So, clinical significance may mean also the functional consequences as attributed to an illnesses or an illness. So, we have clinical significance or the functional consequences. Now, earlier in the laboratory session, we have established what the pathologist and medical technologist will do in a histopath section. Now, kasi ito yung subject natin, no? So, maglilimit tayo. Yes, we know that the pathologist is already a specialized doctor, no? Ang specialized niya more on dealing with pathology. So, titignan niya yung mga cells, no? Ano yung mga different structures attributed to a certain illness. Pag ganito ba yung itsura, pag ganito yung stain, what does it mean? So, yun yung some of the expertise na meron si pathologist. And then, in a clinical or an histopath section, ang CMLS naman natin, they are responsible for the preparation up to the output na tissue on top of a slide. Sila po yung magko-quality check, no? QC and QA na maayos yung pinprepare na tissue sample before the pathologist will read it. And then eventually, kung ano yung mga makikita sa results, ang magko-correlate nun and diagnose, no? Later on will be still the pathologist. Pathology can also be classified into the following. It can either be a general kind of pathology wherein we are studying basically the cells, abnormalities, their stimuli, generally. So wala tayong pinpoint na specific area as to where pathology applies. So example, general pathology kapag sinabi mong cancer, no? Do you know where the cancer is located? Kung saan siya systemically located, hindi pa. Kasi general na cancer lang yung binanggit. Even aging, no? Aging is very general. Inflammation, di mo naman alam kung nasa ang area yung inflammation, no? So that can also be attributed to a general kind of pathology. But if you are already pertaining to a specialized area, a region, na pinpoint mo na anong organ, yung naapektuhan ng illness, that is already classified as systemic. So example, going back to a general term, which is cancer. How are we going to make it systemic? So magsabi ka ng area kung saan yung naapektuhan ng cancer. Example, breast cancer, no? Pagka yun na yung term or example na binigay, systemic na yan. Kasi alam mo na nandun na siya localized dun sa organ na yon. Lung cancer, or even when you say bronchitis, no? Specified na rin yung area na yan, pneumonia. So, pag sinabi bang pneumonia, ang una mo bang iisipin, brain, hindi naman, di ba? So, may idea ka na, ay, pneumonia, lungs yung mainly affected. Even goiter, no? Goiter. So, ang iisipin natin, thyroid gland. So, if you can pinpoint already as to where the special area or exact specific area is, systemic na po siya. Now, pathology can be subdivided into the following. Let's differentiate them one by one. Let's start with gross pathology. Kanina, medyo nabanggit na natin yung grossing, no? Pag sinabing gross pathology, macroscopic yung tinitignan natin. Anything that we can see with our naked eye, anything that we can measure, we can weigh, no? That is under gross pathology. Example, meron kang nakuha na ganito, no? Brain sample. So you're going to check yung mga visible characteristics such as the color, what is the consistency, what is the firmness, no? Kung is it soft, is it hard, what else, yung mga measurable, no? Using our naked eye, like the weight, the height, the length, yung mga dimensions, no? Those are some of the parts that we can macroscopically examine. Then lahat ng yon under gross pathology. Next, we have anatomic pathology. Anatomic pathology, in a way, it bridges the macroscopic aspect and will relate it to the microscopic structure. So here, hindi lang yung macroscopic yung titignan, also microscopic as to its structure. Ano ba yung kanilang general function, no? So yun i-correlate na natin hand in hand and can also be classified into the following. So under anatomic pathology, we know already na pareho palang macro and microscopic analysis gagawin natin. But it can be categorized as to which specimen or where the specimen came from. If that came from a surgery, no, surgical pathology, meaning sinurgery pa, no, nag-effort pang mag-surgery kasi gusto pang mabuhay. Buhay pa yung patient mo. So we can parallel it to a biopsy, no? Kasi in surgery, so after surgery, pwedeng merong tanggalin na material, pwedeng merong tumubo dun sa area, kaya siya mag-undergo ng surgery. Ngayon, yung tumubong material na yon, pwedeng i-excise, again for excision total, no? Or incision, kukuha ng kapiraso. Kung ano lang yung tumubo dun sa organ, kukunin yon kung ano yung affected. And then that is what we're going to check macroscopically and microscopically. So again, for surgical, pathology under anatomic, pathology more on biopsy, leaving pa po yung ating patient. On the other hand, we have autopsy, no? Meaning, check natin yung site in question, pero yung patient mo ay dead na, deceased na. Cadaver na po yung pag-aaralan natin. Then, for exfoliative cytology, since ito, may clue na kayo, cytology. So, cyto is cells, no? So, ito more of microscopic analysis na lang. But then again, kaya siya still pasok sa anatomic pathology. Macroscopically kasi, meron kang makikitang visible changes. Meron tayong isa-scrape dun sa area, kaya siya exfoliative. Either isa-scrape or naturally nagsha-shed off dun sa area. If there are skincare girlies here, familiar sa exfoliation, no? Pag nag-exfoliate, di ba, merong mga natatanggal na debris, dead cells, no? Yan yung isang clue nyo. Yun din pala yung exfoliative cytology. So having that in mind, pag exfoliation, meron palang nagsha-shed off na cells. And then yung mga nagsha-shed off na yun po yung i-analyze natin under exfoliative cytology. And by the way, those cells that have been shed off, yung kusang natatanggal, no, we call that as desquamated cells. So these are the cells that have shed off, and then that is what we're going to analyze under this classification under anatomic pathology. Now, we have already differentiated what a gross pathology is from an anatomic pathology. Ngayon, clinical pathology naman. In pathology kasi, no, hindi lang tayo purely organs or site in question na tine-check natin. Kaya sinabing clinical pathology, i-bridge na po natin yung analysis ng not just the tissue, biopsy, but also other body fluids. Kasi in histopathology, remember you are checking the structure, appearance, even the function. So other sections will also have an importance in determining or having the final diagnosis. So dito, hindi lang again organs, hindi lang tissue yung ina-examine. So clinical pathology, ito na yung different sections natin in the laboratory. Kasi remember, we medical technologists, we aid in the diagnosis, no, of an illness of a patient. And getting those samples, may it be body fluid, may it be blood, may it be tissue, ang end goal natin, malaman kung ano yung sanhi or kung ano yung illness ng pasyente. So that is all under clinical pathology. So again, just to remove the confusion, yung kanina na gross, yung anatomic, lahat yun contained sa histopath section lang. Ngayon, pag sinabi natin clinical pathology, these are the other sections na in the laboratory kasi they are still dealing with illnesses, di ba? Pathology pa rin naman yun. So, ano-ano yung ibang sections in the laboratory? We have the following. So, let's just have a brief review regarding the functions and specializations per section. Kasi by now, medyo marami na tayong nadaan ng subjects nito, no? Especially the CC siguro and hematology. So, just a quick recap. We have your clinical chemistry here, including toxicology. So what we know about clinical chemistry, we accept the blood samples. Primarily, ang tinetest natin dito, the serum, no? Because we want to check the concentration of each analyte if they are still within the reference value. So example, ang analyte mo, glucose, no? We want to know if within reference range pa siya. Kung lower than the reference range, anong ibig sabihin? Maybe hypoglycemic, or if higher than the reference range, depende, baka impaired pa lang, no? Or pwede na ba itong maklasify as hyperglycemic or with diabetes mellitus? Now, it's not just that, marami pa tayong mga analytes na pwedeng i-determine like lipid profile. In CC2, you have enzymes, electrolytes, no? All of those results will lead to a correlation of a disease. Okay? Kaya still under pathology. Now, when you say toxicology, you want to measure toxic substances. Hindi lang trace elements, hindi lang din yung substances of abuse, but even therapeutic substances or therapeutic drugs. Ang toxicology naman hindi lang para malaman ay ano yan gumamit ng substance of abuse, hindi, no? Why? Because some other patients, they are taking up drugs for them to heal or for them to recover. Example, yung mga patients undergoing radiation or chemotherapy, no? We want to make sure that they are still taking adequate doses that are helpful for them. Kaso baka kasi mamaya, kaya we measure them also in toxicology. Baka mamaya it's too much na. Imbis na magkaroon ng good effect to the patient, kabaliktaran pa yung mangyayari. So that is generally what is happening in a clinical chemistry section. How about hematology? So different elements of the blood, not just your RBCs, leukocytes, even thrombocytes, no? They work hand in hand for us to know or be helpful in a diagnosis. Pwedeng sa differential count, no? Yung neutrophils, yung mga granulocytes natin and agranulocytes, they are what we're going to assess in hematology. They are very helpful if we want to know if may anemia yung patient, leukemia, or even lymphomas, no? Wherein a pathologist can also be helpful in hematology kasi there are certain toxic granulations or there are specific structures or patterns that are visible, especially on a certain illness. Pwedeng may poikilocytosis, no? Dine-determine din yan, especially if hindi pa ma-finalize ng medtech yung answer. So they can refer or endorse it to a hematopathologist, especially when they want to arrive to a conclusion. Now, we have also blood banking and transfusion medicine. Now, blood banking is not just about transfusing donor's blood to a patient, no? Hindi lang doon natatapos, hindi lang siya sa blood typing, hindi lang din siya sa changing or exchange of different blood components, but also it is helpful in therapy kasi there are certain instances wherein too much, no, like your PCV or the polycythemia vera. So ang ginagawa din, nagre-remove ng excess na blood sa kanila. So more of that in IMHM, but generally in clinical pathology, when you talk about blood banking, you deal with blood collection after donor screening. Then kapag nakuha na yung blood na yon, hindi rin naman siya agad itatransfuse to different patients. No, we have to make sure that the blood is safe enough to be transfused to others. Kaya dapat magkakaroon ng chemical and serologic testing so that we can exclude those bags na merong transmission or potential of transmitting an infective disease. What else? Kapag okay na-determine na it's safe to transfuse, pwede na natin siyang as is, no? Kung whole blood yung i-request for a patient or paghahati-hatiin yung components because a blood bag can be prepared into different components. Pwedeng yung packed red blood cell lang, plasma lang, platelet lang nila, no, yung ita-transfuse. Aside from those, pwede ring blood typing. What else? Cross-matching, no? Kapag ita-transfuse na to a patient, even if we have already screened it, even if type-specific na, no, parehong type A, sometimes hindi pa rin compatible yung patient's blood to a donor's blood because meron pa ring mga minor na blood groups or antibodies interfere with the transfusion. So those are just a few or a gist of what happens in blood banking. So more of that in your IMHM class. Microbiology. Now ito, it's not just bacteria, pwede ring fungi, parasites, or viruses because we want to know if the illness has a causative agent. No? Hindi lang kasi puro inflammation, baka may underlying reason pa bakit may inflammation. And maybe the cause of that is a microorganism. This is very important for us to know because we cannot give adequate or correct medication if we do not know what the causative agent is. Hindi naman pwedeng bigay lang ng bigay ng antibiotic, hindi naman pala microorganism yung cause ng sakit. So wala naman tayong pinapatay nung gamit ng antibiotic. Ang pinapalakas lang natin yung resistance ng tao, no? Magkakaroon siya ng antibiotic or antimicrobial resistance to that drug kasi wala naman talagang tinitreat. So it's important for us medical technologists to isolate first if there is an infectious agent. So kung walang infectious agent, maybe the illness or the disease is caused by a different, no, reason. But there are certain instances wherein wala tayong makulture, no growth yung kinulture nating sample. But then again, maybe a pathologist or maybe a physician is still sure, no? Sure siya na yung manifestations na to, it's caused by a bacteria. So, what else can we do to ensure lang no na ay bacteria nga yung cause nito or hindi bacteria yung cause na to. Remember, a causative agent or a foreign body will produce or is an antigen, no? Any foreign invader, microorganism, bacteria, when it enters our body, no? Our body will produce antibodies against those foreign invaders. Now, kahit wala na yung foreign invaders na yon, measurable pa sa blood yung antibodies and hindi magkakaroon ng antibody kung hindi tayo na-expose sa isang antigen. So, you get the point? No, even if hindi magkakaroon ng growth doon sa ating culture media in bacteriology, kaso pagdating ng immunology and serology section, nakita dun sa blood of the patient na ay merong presence of ganitong antibody. Ibig sabihin na expose yung katawan dun sa ganong antigen. And one good example of that is measuring titers, no? Example, yung ASO or anti-streptolysin O titer. When we're measuring ASO, yung anti-streptolysin O, take note, no, kapag may anti, ang minimeasure na natin dito, yung antibody. So, kung meron ng antibody na na-measure dun sa blood sample, ibig sabihin na-expose na, no? Nagkaroon na ng antigen interaction. So, nagkaroon na ng exposure sa streptolysin O, which is the antigen. Eh, saan lang manggagaling yon? From a bacteria, specifically the group A, Streptococci. So again, even if nag-no growth dun sa bacteriology, kaso nakita naman dun sa titer na meron ng reaction, ay may antibody na against this antigen. Ibig sabihin, beforehand, na-expose na dito. No? Na-expose na dun sa bacteria for the body to elicit the antibody. Am I clear so far? Can you give me a heart or thumbs reaction? So just so I know if I can proceed with the next slides. All right. So ayan, no, yan yung relation nila. Now, just to go back to histotechnology, no, this is the art and science performed by the histotechnologist that will produce our output, yung tissue section, itong mga ribbons na to, no, isang section yan, lalagay natin sa slide, check natin kung maganda na yung quality para basahin na po ng pathologist. And then, check niya yung shape, structure, and etc. to correlate that to the disease or illness experienced by the patient. Now, pag sinabi naman nating histopathologic technique, lahat ng techniques, procedure that we did to prepare yung tissue sample. Now, I think we have 12, no? 12 steps in total. Huwag kakalimutan yung NF, Disites Mola. NF Disites Mola. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 steps, no? Again, the total of 12 steps na to, preparation pa lang of the tissue. Kaya, if we're going to go back in our laboratory topic earlier, part ito ng no? Pre-analytic phase. Pag natapos na tayong mag-label, na quality check na at babasahin na ng pathologist, dun pa lang magiging analytic phase. Alright? So, what does it mean? So, we start with numbering or accessioning. Then, mag-fix tayo. Fixation. Decalcification. Kung hindi naman bone yung sample mo, skip natin yan. Mag-dehydrate na tayo. So, dehydration, clearing, infiltration, or impregnation. We have embedding, trimming, sectioning, staining, mounting, and labeling. No? So these are the 12 steps before you can even prepare a tissue sample for reading ng pathologist. That's why it's very crucial for a histotechnologist to properly be trained and know each of the functions and each of the reagents needed in the following steps. Again, this 12, pre-analytic pa lang siya. Okay, then pagkatapos nito, pagbabasahin na, analytic phase na tayo. So again, you can go over it again via the recorded discussion. I'll proceed first, no? If you are taking down notes, you can jot down later pag nilagay ko na po sa G Drive. Now, before we proceed with cellular injury and cellular adaptation, let's just go over a brief recap regarding histology, the study of tissues. Kasi no, kailangan in a way familiar din tayo with the basic structures because that is what we're going to see later on as we quality check our slides. So histology, from the name itself, no, microscopic anatomy to of the biological tissues. Histo meaning tissue, mainly study of the tissue. Ito yung kabaliktaran ng gross anatomy. No? When we say gross anatomy, again, macro. Anything seen by the naked eye. Pag histology, before you can see the tissue sample, no, microscopic tayo. So again, kabaliktaran ng gross na macroscopic, histology, microscopic. So we have 4 basic types of your animal tissues. We have the muscle tissue, nervous, connective, and epithelial. Go over natin briefly in the next few slides. More in-depth tayo next meeting, no, in our laboratory discussion. So muscle tissue. Ang muscle tissue, primary function nito is for contraction. So ability to contract. Depending on the protein sliding together, yung actin tsaka myosin. Yung development nito through a process known as myogenesis. So this is formed even before pa, no, embryonic development, myogenesis. We have 3 major classifications. We have the cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, tsaka smooth muscle tissue, wherein they can be differentiated based on first, yung striations. Sino yung may mga light and dark bands. Next, the location of their nuclei. Kung nasa center ba, nasa peripheral, eccentric ba siya, no? And kung voluntary or involuntary yung movement. So, lagay ko na lang dito, movement. So, for the cardiac muscle, gawin ko na lang CM, no, para mas maikse. Cardiac muscle, ito siya, no, may light and dark bands, may mga striation siya. Nuclei niya can be eccentric, no, nasa gilid. Movement, yung cardiac muscle nyo ba, naiisip nyo ba kailan ba siya magpapump ng blood? Hindi naman, no? Pag nakalimutan nyo, mamamatay, hindi magpapump yung blood niyan. So, movement is involuntary. How about the skeletal muscle? Meron bang light and dark bands? Meron din, no? So, merong striations. Nuclei niya still eccentric. Kasi pwede siyang located sa periphery, no? Kaya eccentric, hindi siya located at the center. Movement niya, skeletal muscle, no? Naiisip natin kailan siya gagalaw, kailan siya magfo-fold, kailan siya magbe-bend. So, this is voluntary. So, SK na lang, SKM para skeletal muscle. How about the smooth muscle naman? So, smooth muscle natin, may striations, wala, kaya siya smooth muscle, no? So, no striations. The nuclei is present at the middle, so centrally located. As for the movement, ano ba ang mga example ng smooth muscle? Mga visceral organs, no? You have the stomach, yan, just to name a few. So, yung pag-digest ba pag-contract, pag-move ng stomach, iniisip nyo pa, no? At the end of the day, naiisip nyo ba, ay, yung stomach ko, magpo-fold yan, magdadigest. Hindi naman na, no? So, involuntary pa din. Involuntary. So, main differences of the following part of the table. Now, how about the nervous tissue? Nervous tissue, also known as the neural tissue. This is the main tissue component of the nervous system. And if you can still remember, the nervous system can be differentiated whether it is part of the central nervous system. So pag CNS, brain and spinal cord lang yan. Then the others, yung mga accessories, peripheral, no? Peripheral nervous system comprising the branching peripheral nerves. So, anong cells yung mga important dito or the parts na important? We have the neuron. Neuron, this is mainly for the receiving ng impulse or also yung magsasend. No, receiving, transmitting ng impulse, neuron yan. Now, from the neuron, from that area, madami siyang pwedeng puntahan, di ba? So, meron pang ibang accessories that can help it transmit the impulse. That is the glial cells, also known as glia, or the neuroglial cells. So, tutulong na mag-transmit palayo ng impulse from the neuron or tutulong din mag-receive papuntang neuron, neuroglial cells, pwede rin, no? Or they also provide certain nutrients in support to the neurons. Now, for the connective tissue naman, yung general can be identified as a loose connective tissue or a dense connective tissue. Now, yung dense pwedeng irregular, pwede ding regular. Now, itong tatlong to, loose, tas yung dalawang klase ng dense connective tissue, they can be identified whether they are loose or dense depending on the component. Kasi if you can still remember, ang main components ng mga connective tissue, so of course merong cells, no? Merong cells, meron niyang ground substance or yung mainly water or fluid part ng connective tissue and also the fibers. Pag sinabing loose, mas mataas yung presence ng ground substance, yung fluid, no? Kaya siya loose. Yung fibers niya decreased. Next, for the dense, irregular, mas nag-i-increase na yung fiber, but still in the middle, no? Mas mataas pa din yung highest content ng fiber nasa regular. And then yung ground substance, greater than sa loose connective tissue. Okay? So, still elastic pa din to kasi hindi pa ganun kadami yung fiber. Pag mas dumabi kasi yung fiber, mas nagiging dense, mas siksek, no? Mas incapable siya of being stretchy or being elastic. Yun yung case ng regular. So, as compared to the 3, mas increase yung fiber content nito as compared to the ground substance. Ang ground substance nito, least na yung content ng ground substance. So, kung pinaka-dense, yung dense regular, somewhere in the middle, dense irregular, pinaka-loose, of course, the loose connective tissue, attributed to the increase ground substance, yung fluid content, no, ng connective tissue as compared to the fiber. Mas maraming fiber, mas siksek, so denser. Okay? So that is for your general connective tissue. We also have specialized, no, just to name a few, the cartilage, bone, blood, lymph, and the hematopoietic tissue. Now, for the epithelial tissue naman, this is usually lining, no? Lining the surfaces of the organ. It can also serve as a cell or a tissue that will secrete or absorb something. Pwede rin natin siyang ma-differentiate depending on the number of layers. Pag number of layers, pag isa lang, simple siya. Kapag two or more true layers, take note of the word true, no? Kasi merong iba na pseudo, so false. Pagka true layers na two or more layers, we can call that as stratified. Now, pagka naman hindi true layer, we can call that as a pseudo-stratified layer. Mukha siyang two or more layers pero hindi isa lang talaga. Nagiging iba lang or deformed lang yung structure depending on the quality of the cells like the pseudo-stratified na tissue. So, paano ko malalaman kung pseudo-stratified? You take a look at the main cell. Pag stratified columnar, meron talagang mga nakadikit na first layer dun sa basal lamina. So, nakakapit sa basal lamina yung lahat ng first layer. And then you will see the second layer on top of the first. So, ito yung true stratified. Compared to a pseudo-stratified, if you're going to trace the cell, so di ko matrace na maayos, but you get the point, no? If you're going to trace the cell, yung nuclei niya napunta lang sa iba't ibang area, but the whole cell, no? One whole cell is still connected to the same basal lamina. So lahat yan sa iisang basal lamina lang. Hindi siya nakakonect on top of one. So pseudo-stratified. Now, aside from the layers, you can also differentiate them depending on their shape. So sorry for the typo, no? Columnar po ito. Columnar. Now, yung shape nila, pagka stratified, scale-like. Stratified, scale-like, para daw kaliskes. They are flat. So, from the shape, stratified, squamous rather. So, their shape is squamous. Meaning, they are scale-like or flat. Now, from the shape itself, may idea ka na ano ang function ng shape na yan. So, kung flat siya or scale-like, para siyang pantapal or layering, no? Covering siya ng isang area. It can be a lining of the mouth. So, kung lining siya, pang-cover, no? Pang-protect. Pwedeng lining of the blood vessel, no? Squamous din yan. And it can also be present in the alveoli of the lungs. Another shape, we have cuboidal. So, ang definition nito, same yung kanyang length, width, and height. So, it is cube-shaped. Yung height and width nila, they are just the same. So, cuboidal, ang tatandaan dito, they mainly function for absorption, secretion, and excretion. Kaya pag nakakita kayo ng cuboidal cells, ano ba yung mga sinisecrete ng cell? Hormones, no? So, saan ba tayo nakakita ng nagsisecrete ng hormones? One good example is the pancreas. So, yung mga beta cells, insulin, no? Glucagon, no? Usually, cuboidal po yan. Yun kasi yung function nila. So, nagsisecrete, nag-absorb. So, again, one good example, secretion of hormone, pancreas, ano pa pwedeng kidneys, pwede ring salivary glands, no? So, known for a secretion, salivary glands. Now, similar function but different shape yung columnar naman. Columnar, this is taller. Ang definition, taller than it is wide. So, pahaba yung shape niyan. Isa sa magandang way on how you can remember that that function is for columnar, di ba medyo mahaba siya. Ngayon, ang special sa kanya, dahil siya, dahil naging mahaba siya, ba't ganun? Ayan. It wants to extend to something para it can either trap something, remove, brush something. or it can act as a cell to absorb via itong structure sa taas, no? It's either a cilia or villi. So yung cilia or villi, again, it can be for absorption, pwedeng pangtanggal ng debris, pang brush off ng something, no? Kaya isa sa area na makikitaan nyo ng columnar cells, nasa respiratory tract. Kasi remember, kailangan clear yung ma-inhale natin. Hindi dapat full of debris kasi madadala yan sa lungs. So, if the air that we breathe contains debris, pwedeng matrap dito. And then, it can either beat it, dyan na niya tatanggalin, dyan niya na pupuksain, no, sa area na yan, or it can help move it out of the system. Kaya di ba meron tayong mga coughing reflexes kapag nakalanghap ng usok, kasi may mga dust particles or debris na nalanghap na trap ngayon dun sa area na yan, and coughing reflex na gusto nating tanggalin. Kaya pag nauubo kayo, huwag yung pipigilan, no? Kasi isa sa defense mechanism ng katawan niyan that we want to cough out something toxic, no? Something that isn't supposed to be there. Pag na-hatching, no, hayaan yung ma-hatching kayo, no? Mag-excuse na lang kasi we want to remove kung ano yung pumasok na foreign. So, that is for the epithelial tissue. Now, moving forward to cellular injury and cell death. Kasi this one is what usually is being correlated by the pathologist, no? This is what they usually would like to see dun sa cells. Kung yung cells ba nababasahin nila from our preparation, injured na ba yun? Reversible pa ba yung damage? Or it will lead to death already? And kung death ba yun, is it a normal program death or is it caused by trauma? So that is what we're going to know in the upcoming slides. So first, when we say cellular injury, ibig sabihin na-expose na yung cells to something stressful. So hindi pa agad infection, hindi pa agad trauma, no? Pwede kasi na normal yung nangyari and the cells will still be able to adapt. Okay? So stressful environment, kung kaya niya pang mag-adapt, pwede pang ma-reverse. But if the stress is already so severe at hindi niya na kayang mag-adapt, pwede na siyang mag-progress into an irreversible injury leading to cell death. Now, what are the usual causes of cellular injury? Number one, no, oxygen deprivation. Pag decrease yung oxygen, hypoxia, no? What is the cause now of hypoxia? Bakit nagdi-decrease yung oxygen? It can be because of a reduced blood flow. Pag reduce yung blood flow, tawag natin ischemia. Now, yung ischemia, general term for a reduction in blood flow, yung reason ng ischemia, iba-iba din. Pwedeng because the blood vessel is obstructed, may nakabara, kaya yung pagpasok ng blood mahina lang, no? Reduce yung blood flow, of course, reduce din yung oxygen. Or pwede rin namang merong infection, pwedeng may anemia, or pwede rin namang because of different physical agents such as the following. So, first we have mechanical trauma, ang pinaka famous na kind of mechanical trauma are vehicular accidents, car crashes, no? Why? In vehicular accidents, tapos severe yung naging car crash, yung involved doon, may be the driver, the passenger, or kung sino man yung involved dun sa car crash, merong excessive bleeding, no? Pag excessive yung bleeding, edi reduce ulit yung blood flow, reducing oxygen. So, bakit kaya pag reduce yung oxygen, nagkukos ng cellular injury mamaya, no? Tignan natin ano ba yung effect ng decreased oxygen. But for now, tignan muna natin yung reasons kung bakit nagkakaroon ng hypoxia. So, first we have mechanical trauma. Second, we have extremes of temperature. So in general, no, binanggit temperature. So pwede yan na either, so burahin ko muna yung vehicular accident. It can either be too hot, no? Pag hot, ibig sabihin, pwedeng hyperthermia. So pag hyperthermia, this one can lead to stress, it can lead to muscle spasms, or even exhaustion, heat stroke, no? Yan yung mga nagiging effect ng hyperthermia. Pero, iba pa yung sobrang init na na-expose ka dun sa burns, no, na napaso. Yung burns naman, na because of hot temperature, can either be full thickness. Pag sinabing full thickness, yung area na nasunog, lahat dun sa area, nawala, no? Nasunog lahat. May it be the muscle, may it be the nerve endings, yung responsible for the sensation. Kaya it's safe to say, for the full thickness, yung kulay niyan, it's either white or charred, parang naging abono, white or charred. Tapos yung area, anesthetic na, meaning numb. Yung area, wala nang maramdaman. Kasi again, full thickness. So lahat dun sa area, na-destroy. Di na maramdaman kasi wala na dun yung nerve endings for the person to feel pain. Yung iba, halos kita na rin yung buto dito, no? Sa mga full thickness na burns. Now, ano yung isang type? Pwedeng partial thickness. In a partial thickness kind of burn, kung kanina full lahat dun sa area na sunog, ito meron pang naiiwan. So since may naiiwan, no, imagine nalapnos yung balat, de makikita mo yung muscle dun. The color can either be pink or mottled. Pagka sinabing mottled, speckled, no, or may spots, may smears of color, kasi iba-iba. Pwedeng makita mo dyan, may pink, may charred, may white area. So iba-iba, hindi ganun ka homogeneous or uniform than that of a full thickness burn. Tapos, since hindi lahat nasunog dun sa area, possibly may maiiwan pa ring areas na merong nerve ending. So kung may nerve ending, edi mararamdaman, no? So this one is very painful. Meron din dito yung kapag natatalsikan ng ng mantika, anong tawag doon? Yung paltos ba yun, no? Yung paltos or the blisters. Blistered yung area. So, pwedeng fluid yung laman or if coupled na with bacteria, pwedeng pus or nana yung laman. So, that is the difference between the two. So, extremes of temperature. Ito mainit lang. Pwede rin because of a cold temperature. So, I'll just erase. Oops. Ayan. So, pwede rin cold temperature, no? Pag cold temperature naman, hypothermia. So in hypothermia naman, ang nangyayari usually, it's too cold, may freezing, no? Freezing of the cells. So freezing or chilling of the cells. So mechanical trauma, extremes of temperature. Next, we have sudden changes in atmospheric pressure. Ano yan? Altitude, no? Kung masyadong mataas yung area or mababa yung area, so if the altitude will cause illness or cellular injury, we can collectively call that as a barotrauma. So from our altitude here, example, in Metro Manila, nagpunta ka bigla sa sobrang taas like Mount Fuji, no, without even practicing or training ng endurance, of course, magkakaroon din yun ng cellular effect dun sa tao. Mainly affecting the lungs, yung iba, because of the extreme change in pressure, pati yung eyes nila, GIT, ears, sinuses, no? Nagkakaroon ng effect. If you've ever tried hiking, no, mountain climbing, 'di ba? Minsan sa pressure, yung tenga nyo biglang parang nagiging barado siya, pati yung ilong, kailangan nyo pa lumunok. Or yung iba, if na-try na mag-free dive, mag-scuba dive, pag sobrang lalim din, ganun din, no? Nagkakaroon din possibility of a barotrauma. Now, what about radiation? Now, ang radiation, it acts as a double-edged sword. Bakit? Kasi yung radiation, it has a positive effect eh. Ang radiation, ginagamit na yan, di ba, for therapy? Like in radiation therapy ng patients with cancer. So, meron talaga siyang good effect. But if used improperly and too much, no, it can also cause cellular injury. Kasi remember, radiation is mutagenic. Pag sinabi nating mutagenic, merong mutations na pwedeng mangyari, no? It can cause irreversible or permanent damage to a gene. We know that it can also be carcinogenic. So ironic, no? Carcinogenic siya, pero pwede natin siyang gamitin as a therapy, no? Again, with proper usage, adequate amount and concentration, it can be beneficial. But if too much, pwede rin siyang mag-cause ng cancer. And also, it is teratogenic. Pag sinabi nating teratogenic, meron siyang capability to cross barriers. Example, pag sa radiation, no, usually tinatanong kapag magpapa-x-ray, buntis po ba if female, no? Kasi nakaka-cross ng barriers yung radiation. It can be teratogenic as to cause harm to the embryo directly. So it can cause birth defects, it can cause different deformations dun sa offspring later on pagkalabas. So mutagenic, carcinogenic, and teratogenic. So that is for radiation. So what else? Electric shock. Now yung electric shock, depending on the voltage, can lead to fatality. Fatal din po ang electric shock, no? Kaya ingat din tayo sa mga electrical hazards. Electric shock, hindi man siya diretsyong nerves or impulses yung maapektuhan, pwedeng yung electric shock can lead to burns kasi mainit, no? It can produce heat or induce heat. So burns can be related to electric shock also. So yung burns na yun, pwedeng categorize ulit dun sa kanina natin. And also, electric shock, since, di ba, our heart also is affected by different electricity. So, meron din nakukos ito na ventricular fibrillation. Now, this ventricular fibrillation is a type of arrhythmia. So, changes in the cardiac pulses, no? So, irregular yung heartbeat because of this electricity, no, na exposed dun sa person. So ventricular fibrillation cannot just be limited to arrhythmia. It can also cause cardiac or respiratory failure due to the disruption of the normal electric impulses. So what else? We have also chemical agents and drugs, no? Kapag ka sa glucose or salt concentrations, mainly ang naapektuhan nito yung electrolyte imbalance. And in electrolyte imbalances, nakasunod din syempre yung water, no? Kung papasok or lalabas yung water, that can also lead to cellular injury. It may be reversible or irreversible depending, no, on the severity of the stress. Oxygen, hindi lang siya sa low concentrations nakaka-affect sa cells, but even in higher concentration. So anything that is too much or too little can also affect and lead to cellular injury kasi ang mangyayari naman dito, merong oxidative stress, no, to the cells. How about other poisons like this one, arsenic, cyanide, mercuric salts, primarily, ang naapektuhan dito, yung mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation, mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation. So ano ba yung familiar term dito? Mitochondria. Mitochondria, if we're going to go back to its function, powerhouse, no? General term na lang, powerhouse of the cell kasi it mainly accumulates the energy unit of the body, which is ATP, no? Yung adenosine triphosphate. O, so what about it? So kung walang energy, nai-inhibit ng poisons na to yung energy. What will power the function of the cell, no? So eventually, it will lead also to cellular injury. How about the following? Yung mga pollutants, environmental, insecticides, herbicides, and even itong mga industrial and occupational hazards natin. Ano ba nangyayari pag nagsispray ng insecticide, herbicide, yung mga, ano tawag dyan, mga fertilizer, no? Carbon monoxide, even if it's odorless, pag nasinghot yan, naamoy, no? Asbestos, pag nasinghot din yung dust at nag-cling dun sa respiratory area, ang major maapektuhan dito are the lungs. So pag naapektuhan yung lungs, inadequate na naman yung pag-supply ng oxygen, no? Hypoxia na naman tayo. And then, lastly, for this slide, we have the alcohol. Now, alcohol, ito yung iniinom na alcohol, no? Generally, alcohol is accepted to be taken in, no, for recreational purposes kasi meron niyang mood-altering properties. Pero hindi ko sinabing uminom kayo ha kung nadadown kayo ngayon. So, I would just like to say that alcohol is accepted, no, as a mood booster. Pero if taken in too much, pag too much yung pag-intake ng alcohol, it can also have detrimental effects kasi it can lead to physical and psychological damage. Diba yung iba pagka daw nalasing, hindi na maalala yung ginagawa, no? So, totoo kaya yon, no? So, physical, psychological damage, and it can also damage organs, specifically kung chronic user or intaker of alcohol, it can damage the liver, which can lead to cirrhosis. Ano pa kaya yung ibang cause? We have infectious agents. So of course, pag merong trauma, no, because of an infection, can be any microorganism, virus man yan, bacteria, fungi, or a parasite. It can be because of an immunologic reaction. Pwedeng endogenous self-antigen. So, sarili mo ng cells yung nag-a-act dito at sumisira, no? Nagkukos ng cellular injury. In a case of autoimmune diseases, or pwede ring external, no, galing sa labas at inaapektuhan yung katawan natin such as allergens. Pwede ring caused by infectious agent, no, yung cause ng inflammation kasi matitrigger yung inflammatory response. Genetic derangements, ito yung mga chromosomal abnormalities. So, mga disorders, chromosomal disorders, Wherein, pag meron kasing chromosomal disorder, it can also lead to abnormal structures of the cell. Pag abnormal yung structure, hindi ganun ka-potent to carry certain parts or components like oxygen. Hindi lang chromosomal disorders, yung mga inborn error of metabolism, pwede ring example niyan. And then, we have nutritional imbalances. Example, nutrition, diets, no? There are people who are fond of taking or trying different kinds of diet. Pwedeng therapeutic yun sa kanila, baka yun po yung in-advise ng doktor. Yung iba naman, pwedeng due to what do you call that, influence, no? Kasi nakita ay maganda daw yung ketogenic diet for reducing or losing weight. But take note, there are some or certain diets that also need to be consulted to a nutritionist or a doctor kasi iba-iba tayo ng um, conditions. So for example, if you're taking in or doing ketogenic diet, pag nagki-keto diet kasi tumataas yung intake ng cholesterol. Technically, dapat good cholesterol yung ini-intake pero without proper guidance, any cholesterol intake ginagawa. Yung iba, sige, hindi ako magkakanin or lower yung carbohydrate ko, mag-chicharon naman ako, no? Kasi cholesterol daw no? So, what will happen if hindi properly guided yung mga ganong kinds of diet? So, in that case, kung cholesterol yung tumataas, pwede ring mag-lead to atherosclerosis, no? May build up of cholesterol dun sa blood vessels. O ano mangyayari pagka nag-build up yung cholesterol dun sa blood vessels, babalik tayo sa ischemia. Kasi kung may build up dun sa paligid ng blood vessel at reduced yung pagpasok ng blood, edi hypoxia din. Ano? And mind you, back in 2024, since lipas naman na yung COVID era, no? Back in 2022 or 2020, 2021, of course, yan yung leading cause of death in the Philippines. But right now, according to studies, the leading cause of death is ischemia na, ischemic heart disease. So, in 2024. So, be mindful also of the diets or the things that you intake also kasi they can also lead to cellular injury. So, now that we know the cause, let's move forward to knowing what a reversible cell injury look like and what a cell death is or what the difference of a cell death in terms of appearance and definition is. So, let's start with a reversible cell injury. Ito yung mga hallmarks daw. Pag sinabing hallmarks, ito yung mga makikita mo dun sa cell kapag ka merong reversible cell injury. Now, medyo bumalik tayo ng konti. We know that a cause of cellular injury is having low or reduced oxygen, no? In what we call hypoxia. Yung hypoxia pwedeng because of ischemia or many different physical and other reasons. Basta yung main point natin doon, ang common cause pala yung reduced na oxygen. Bakit nga ba yung reduced oxygen nakaka-cause ng cellular injury? So, medyo balikan natin yung biochemistry, no? Remember that a cell, saan ba nangyayari yung exchange of materials? 'Di ba dito, no? Yung mga outside papunta sa loob, inside papunta sa labas. Kung ano yung kailangan lumabas or pumasok, ang responsible dun sa exchange na yan, yung plasma membrane. So, in general na lang, no? If you want the specifics of this, you can go back to your biochemistry lessons before. But the gist of it is that yung plasma membrane, it's responsible for the exchange of materials. Again, what should go out, what should go in, no? Yun yung nire-regulate niya. Paano ba yun nare-regulate? Through energy. So, dapat merong energy source. And ano ba ang energy source? ATP. Okay? So nandun na tayo sa part na yon. O may energy, may ATP, no? Because of the mitochondria. Pero hindi yun lahat mangyayari at masusupply ng maayos kung walang oxygen or reduced yung oxygen. If the oxygen is reduced, then the action is also reduced. Mai-impede yung exchange na to. So hindi lalabas yung dapat lumabas at hindi papasok yung dapat pumasok, resulting to, so na-deplete na, decrease yung oxygen, yung exchange of materials hindi maayos, may magre-retain sa loob, no? Let's just say the fluid na dapat lalabas, hindi na lumabas. So it will cause cellular swelling, no? Cellular swelling, yung fluid na retain sa loob, magkakaroon yan ng mga visible manifestations throughout the cell. So under the light microscope, pwedeng makakita si pathologist ng mga ganito. Merong swelling, kasi from a normal cell, mas malaki siya, mas bloated, and some will form pockets, may protrusions dun sa plasma membrane, nagkakaroon ng blebs or blebbing yung phenomenon. Since too saturated, yung mga nakakling pwedeng matanggal like the ribosomes, no? Mag-fall apart siya from the endoplasmic reticulum. And there would be clumping of the nuclear chromatin. But then again, reversible pa naman to, no? If the stress will be reduced, if the stimuli causing the stress is corrected or addressed, pwede pa siyang mag-recover to a normal cell. So just to dive into the features, we have first yung unang manifestation, yung kitang-kita agad, yung pagka-bloated niya, no? Cellular swelling, or we can also call this as your hydropic change. Hydropic change or vacuolar degeneration. So pag nakita niyo itong mga terms na to, cellular swelling din, ano? Again, the first manifestation of almost all forms of injury to the cells. So, nandyan ulit yung blebbing, may mitochondrial changes, reduce yung ATP, no? May dilation, pag swell, pamamaga din ng endoplasmic reticulum, matatanggal yung ribosomes. And aside from this, na cellular swelling, pwede ring makakita ng fatty change. So sometimes, hindi lang yung fluid yung pwedeng mag-retain. There are certain instances wherein merong problema sa metabolism, leading to the accumulation of lipids, specifically triglycerides, no? TAG, yung abbreviations, or triglycerides. So if you see me abbreviating it as TAG, triglycerides din yon. So kung yan yung nag-accumulate, yan yung makikita natin under the microscope. Here we can see a normal liver. Pag nag-accumulate naman yung triglycerides dyan, makikita natin mga adipocytes. Adipocytes or fat cells. If you go back in histology, pagka pinrepair natin yung smear or tissue, tapos in-stain natin siya, yung lipids hindi na-sustain yan kasi they usually are being dissolved, no, by certain reagents. Kaya under the microscope, they are characterized by this empty, no, na circles. Tapos, may nuclei yan. Eccentric lang. Ito, no, nasa gilid. Nasa gilid ng cell yung nuclei. Kasi na-push outward na, no, as you prepare the cell. So, this is still a kind of reversible injury. Liver yung most common na naapektuhan kasi remember that the major site of fat metabolism is the liver. Okay? Kaya yung mga fatty liver na conditions, no, pwedeng ito yung mga makikita nila if you're going to take a part of the liver of those patients. But then again, pag yung stimuli is corrected, nawala yung cause of stress, pwede pa rin maging reversible. But what will happen if it's not corrected or if the trauma or the infection becomes too severe, it's not capable of regeneration or recovery anymore. Ang nangyayari, namamatay na. Now, cell death can either be normal, a normal program cell death in case of apoptosis, or pwedeng because of infection, trauma, no? Hindi normal na may infection. Sorry, no? Sorry for the intrusion. So, hindi normal na may infection, hindi normal na may trauma, necrosis po yun. So, let's differentiate the two. Let's differentiate apoptosis from necrosis. So, apoptosis, as you know, as of now, normal yan, healthy process, kasi hindi naman forever nabubuhay ang isang cell. Meron lang din silang certain lifespan, or baka kasi it's not just old or na-produce sila na hindi ganun kaganda yung morphology, no? Normal function ng katawan natin na alisin yung hindi maayos. Okay? That is why apoptosis can be classified pa into two. Pwede siyang physiologic. Pag sinabing physiologic, apoptosis because of normal development. So for example, merong nilabas yung bone marrow na RBC, day 1, no? Up to day 120, hanggang dun lang siya. So after day 120, due to old age, dapat yon na magkaroon na siya ng program cell death papunta sa spleen, no? Eh what about a pathologic? Meron din palang pathologic apoptosis. Pag pathologic apoptosis, wag malilito. Kahit sinabing pathologic, hindi siya about an infection. Hindi siya caused by an infection. Pwede kasi na let's just say yung na-produce na cell, imbis na, let's just say, imbis na circular, no? Naging pwedeng semicircle, no? Or hindi buong circle yung na-produce. So, ma-alert yung katawan na ay hindi ito normal structure of the body. So, hindi na siya papatagalin pa sa circulation, normal function of the body, na alisin yung hindi tamang morphology. No? So, that is a pathologic kind of apoptosis. But then again, hindi ito dahil sa trauma, hindi ito dahil sa infection, no? Kasi ibang case po yun. This one, still a normal, healthy process of the body and is always beneficial to the organism. Now, just to break down the meaning of apoptosis from Greek word apo. Apo meaning from, and ptosis meaning falling. Okay, so falling or a fall. So that is your apoptosis. On the other hand, pagka hindi na ito normal, hindi na ito beneficial dun sa tao, no? Necrosis na yan. It's because of a trauma or an infection, and it's always abnormal, always harmful. Kabaliktaran ng apoptosis, if that is programmed, natural yon, ito unprogrammed or unnatural. Now, just to show you a picture of the different morphologic changes as compared to our baseline na normal na tubules, if I'm going to ask you, kidney tubules, epithelium to, no? Can you give me the shape and layer? Can you give me the full name of this epithelium based on the first picture? If you have answers, you can utilize the chat box. So, alam nyo na epithelium yan, no? So, ano kaya siyang kind of epithelium? Okay, good. I already have answers here. Tama, no? Simple and cuboidal. So, if you are listening to my discussion earlier, isang clue nyo na doon. Example natin ng cuboidal yung kidney, no? Kasi it functions for secretion, pwedeng absorption, and etc. But as for the shape, meron kang clue dito na isang epithelial cell, isang nuclei. So, it is the same width and it's similar with its height, kaya this is cuboidal. May nakikita ba kayong nakapatong sa kanya? Wala naman, ano? So this is just simple. Okay? Kung may nakapatong, that is already stratified. So, good job, no? Yung nag-participate, I'll give you additional 2 points for the quiz next week. So, normal, kidney, tubules, epithelium, this is the simple cuboidal epithelium. Or pwede mo rin siyang pangalanan as simple cuboidal epithelial cells. Now, since this is our baseline, let's compare it to the cells of ayaw niya mapindot. Let's compare it to the cells of ayaw niya lumabas. So, let's just write it here. We have here a reversible damage. So, reversible pa to. How did I know? So, intact pa, in a way, yung mga nuclei, no? Kita mo pa eh. Although some shrunk already, pero if it's still reversible, buo pa yung nuclei at pwede pa siyang bumalik to its normal state. Meron man siyang mga blebbing, no? May mga protrusions dyan. But then again, it's an early manifestation kasi of a reversible damage as compared to irreversible. Kasi kung wala ka nang i-recover, wala ka nang i-heal na nuclei, if the nuclei is already fragmented, point of no return na yon. Imagine, no, from this, tignan nyo naman yung mga nuclei, iilan na lang. Tapos yung structure ng cuboidal cells nyo, hindi nyo na rin maintindihan kasi fragmented na sila, they have already been lysed, may leakage na. Since nasira na yung pinaka-cell, lumabas na rin yung content. Though di kita dito, no, pero sira-sira na kasi yung cell, no? Ibig sabihin, of course, pag nasira na yung membrane, the plasma membrane, the structure or organelles, all the components of it will also leak out. Okay? Now, to differentiate them further, let's take a look at this table. So, necrosis from apoptosis. Cell size enlarged. Pag necrosis, reduce naman pag apoptosis. Ma'am, bakit ganon? Di ba meron tayong reversible na nagsuswell siya, no? Ito, take note that these are all cell death. Okay? So, these are all cell death. So, tanggalin nyo na sa isip nyo yung mga reversible. So, lahat to irreversible. They will lead to cell death. Pero, since apoptosis is programmed, no, maayos siya, it will start from the inside. So, unahin niya yung mga organelles inside, unti-unti siyang magre-reduce, mag-shrink, hanggang sa mag-fragment, no? Walang leaking out dito. No to less, no? Leaking out of components kasi maayos pinlano from the inside, nag-fragment, etc. But in necrosis kasi merong invasion invasion of an infection, may trauma. So nagsimula or hindi mo na alam kung paano nagsimula yung pinakapagkasira. So meron din ditong swelling, enlarged siya kasi from the plasma membrane, nasira na yung exchange, no? So, yun yung una no, na mapapasukan ng infection. Magkakaroon ng effect dun sa plasma membrane. Pag nag-enlarge siya, it can lead to pycnosis first, followed by karyorrhexis, then karyolysis. Ano ba yung pinagkaiba ng tatlo? Pag sinabi nating pycnosis from an enlarged state, magkakaroon na ng unti-unting reduction. Okay? Reduction in size of the nuclei. While the cell is enlarged, nuclei will start to reduce, no? Itong pycnosis, karyorrhexis, karyolysis, all part of the nuclei, no? Lahat to nangyayari sa nuclei. So, mare-reduce yung nuclei. As it reduces, pag mas lumiliit yung substance, no, mas nagiging denser or mas nagkakaroon ng deeper color yung nuclei. So, since it's reduced, it will be basophilic, mas magiging bluish yung kulay niya. So, increased basophilia. basophilia rather, and then may condensation. So reduction, basophilic, kasi mas magiging denser, no? Merong condensation. Afterwards, it will start to be fragmented in what we call karyopexis. So fragmentation of the chromatin followed by full dissolution. Madidissolve na siya, no, in karyolysis. Pero sa apoptosis, maayos, no? Since planado, fragment lang siya. Pagka tapos na, unti-unti inside, magkaroon ng programmed cell death. How about the plasma membrane? Since sa necrosis, may foreign invaders tayo, no? Disrupted ang plasma membrane, apoptosis intact, kaya walang lalabas na components or cellular contents as compared to necrosis. Since disrupted yung plasma membrane, may mag-leak out na cellular contents at pag nag-leak out yan, kasi imagine, no, yung mga contents ng cell na yon supposedly, wala siya sa labas. Because of a trauma, because of an infection, mapipilitan siya kasi nasira siya, napilitan lumabas yung mga content na yon. And it's not supposed to be there. Maa-alarm yung ating inflammatory response. So there would be adjacent inflammation as compared to apoptosis. Since intact, walang leakage, walang inflammatory response. Kasi normal naman siya, no, na mangyayari sa body. And then for necrosis, it is usually pathologic. Apoptosis often physiologic. Meron lang ibang types of pathologic yung na banggit ko kanina, no? So yung physiologic versus your pathologic apoptosis. Now, it doesn't end there. Yung necrosis natin, may iba-iba rin siyang type. We can differentiate the types of necrosis depending on its causes and the usual area kung saan po siya nangyayari. So let's start with coagulative necrosis. Coagulative, may coagulation, no? May coagulate. So, solid form siya. Naiiwan yung architecture niya na intact for several days. Yun yung characteristic nito. Bakit kaya? A coagulative necrosis is known to be a phenomenon wherein it not just denature the protein but also enzymes. Eh di ba yung enzymes? Responsible din yan for the digestion of something that is foreign, no? So, walang nangyaring digestion dito. Kung ano man yung area na naapektuhan, intact pa din siya. Bakit several days? Because there will be a span of time wherein our inflammatory response will be properly activated. So, kung walang naglilinis ng area na yan, no, yung normal na dapat mag-act dun sa area, ma-alert sila as day goes by. So, since hindi ma-digest ng enzyme, since na-denature na yung protein, na-denature yung enzymes, ang makukunan na lang natin ng response yung mga nasa labas, no? So, unti-unting mag-a-alert ang inflammatory response, pupunta na dito yung mga neutrophils, no? Or yung leukocytes in general. From the leukocytes, yung lysosome nila, lysosomal enzymes, yung mag-a-act dito sa area. Kaya again, preserved yung architecture nito for several days until dumating yung ating respondents, no? Yung magre-responde dyan na leukocytes. So from the leukocytes, your lysosomal enzymes will act on the area to furtherly clean up and digest whatever it is that is infecting this area. So, saan ba usual nakikita ito? It can be seen in areas of ischemia. Again, pag sinabing ischemia, no, merong decreased flow of blood. So, iba-iba yung cause nun. Basta decrease yung flow of blood, pwedeng because of arterial obstruction, kaya nag-reduce yung blood flow, and also in cases of infarction. So, wag mapagbabaliktad yung dalawa. Pag sinabing ischemia, meron pa ring flow of blood pero reduced. But when you say infarction, wala na. Total loss or complete loss of blood supply. So kung wala ng blood supply, di naman na magpo-function ng heart, no? So heart attack na, no, yung susunod. So not just the heart, pwede rin makita sa kidneys and the adrenal gland. Now, kabaliktaran ng kaninang solid, no, na yung architectural pattern is still preserved. Itong liquefactive necrosis, so liquefactive, liquid na yung makikita natin. Immediate na to, no? Immediate yung digestion ng dead cells dun sa area forming liquid masses, and it is usually caused by an infection. Merong bacteria or fungal infection. Meron ding accumulation ng leukocytes dun sa area. Now, that leukocyte, after it is already dead, no, yung mga dead WBCs, it will accumulate pus cells, kaya creamy yellow yung appearance ng area. Example, infarct of the brain. So ma'am, di ba infarction din yung kanina sa coagulative necrosis? But the main difference here, may infarction nga dito but with bacteria or fungal infection. Next, we have your gangrenous necrosis. Actually, it's not a specific pattern of cell death, but the term is commonly used in clinical practice. This usually refers to a massive death of the tissue superimposed by bacterial infection. So, immediately combination, no? Combination ng ischemia, tapos nagkaroon pa ng bacterial infection. Yung kanina kasi, kung coagulative, no, ischemia, infarction alone, yung liquefactive, ang main cause doon yung infection, no? Nakikita lang usually dun sa areas na may infarction, but this time around, ischemia, then nagkaroon pa ng bacterial infection dun sa area. So gangrenous necrosis. So kung coagulative necrosis superimposed by bacterial infection, remember yung kanina solid, no? Hindi siya no presence of liquid area, walang pus, so dry yung area. We can associate that to an arterial occlusion. Pag liquefactive naman, associated sa venous occlusion. So yung cause ng ischemia or yung cause dito ng decreased blood flow because of bara dun sa arteries, dun sa coagulative. Pag may bara naman dun sa venous, usually liquefactive daw yung associated. Now, if you want to remember this quickly, no, we can use the terms dry art, wet vein. So, tandaan nyo na lang, dry art, wet vein. So, kung dry, coagulative yan, and then associated with arterial occlusion. Pagka naman wet, liquefactive, venous occlusion. Next, we have caseous necrosis. Caseous yung term kasi cheese-like daw yung debris like this one, no? This is often because of tuberculosis infection. Kaya makikita nyo siya usually dito sa lungs, no? This is a lung of a chronic smoker. Kaya itim na sunog na yung lungs niya. So, lungs, tuberculosis. Ano pa yung ibang hallmarks nito? Meron siyang presence of granuloma. Granuloma. Ang granuloma, it's a mixture of different cells already that is acting upon on that area. So halo-halo, may proteins, may iba't ibang cells. Kung merong nagpunta na dun sa border na gustong i-clean up yung area pero hindi pa tapos, no, na i-clean up, may mga leukocytes ding makikita dyan. So halo-halo, nagkumpul-kumpul na yung cells dyan dun sa border ng pinaka-necrosis. they form one huge ball-like structure which we call granuloma. So don't get deceived, no, by the term cheese-like kasi itong area na to super foul na yung smell niyan kapag naka-encounter kayo sa histopath laboratory. Now, how about fat necrosis? So, yan, may clue na tayo, no? Merong fat destruction. Ang usual na apektuhan dito, yung pancreas, in a case or what we call a condition na acute pancreatitis. What happens is that meron kasing release of this enzyme. Now, remember, ang enzyme, maraming functions, no? Hindi lang siya pang-catalyze or pang-pabilis ng isang event. It can also cleave something, pwedeng paghiwalayin yung isang compound or isang substance. So, what happens kapag na-release tong lipase na to, kaya ko nalaman na enzyme, no? May ASE. So, once this lipase is released, triglyceride in the area will be cleaved. So kung yung triglyceride na to, again, acted upon by lipase, pag kinleave yan, babalik tayo sa backbone or yung composition ng triglycerides. Eh ano ba yung backbone yan? Glycerol and fatty acids, no? Yan yung composition ng triglyceride. Now, itong fatty acids na to, Fa na lang, no? The fatty acids will be reacting to the neighboring calcium. And pag nag-combine yung fatty acids at saka calcium na yan, it will lead to saponification, fat saponification, and visible yan na makikita dun sa area. Yung may mga white chalky areas, dyan nangyari yung combination ng fatty acids and calcium. So yan yung mga visible na makikita natin in an area with fat necrosis. All because of the release of this lipase. Kaya yung fatty acids from triglycerides nag-react sa calcium, giving you saponification, producing white chalky areas like this one. Next, we have your fibrinoid necrosis. Pag nakita yung suffix na oid, meaning like, no, kamukha daw ng fibrin. Though fiber is the main reason here, pero kaya po nagkakaroon ng areas na makapal, di naman ganyan kakapal ang fiber, no? Kaya siya kumapal ng ganyan, usually if there is uncontrolled hypertension, fibrin usually leaks out from the vessels and then nagko-combine siya dun sa presence of immune complex dun sa area na antigen-antibody complex. Pag nag-combine yung fibrin with the immune complexes, ganito yung nagiging itsura niya. Bright pink, amorphous appearance pag in-stay natin ng HNE, giving you your fibrinoid, no, necrosis. And then lastly, we have avascular necrosis. Now, this usually happens if there is an area na nawala ng blood supply. If you're familiar with the celebrity Angelica Panganiban, no, nagkaroon siya ng ganitong emergency. Nagkaroon daw ng avascular necrosis. Kaya since wala nang blood supply dun sa area, pag lumalakad dun sa may balakang, sobrang sakit, no? This usually happens sa mga ends of long bones. And then, of course, kapag walang blood supply, walang nutrition. Gaya nito, hindi na nakakapit, no? Yan, ganyan siya. Now, there are various reasons why this usually happen. It can either be because of an injury. Number one, pwedeng injury, merong trauma, or vasculitis, may inflammation of the blood vessels, or pwede ring because of drugs. Yung therapeutic drugs, no, pwedeng corticosteroids. Because corticosteroids directly affect bone function. Ang nangyayari, dinidecrease niya yung bone calcium intake. Calcium, di ba, it's known to supply nutrient to the blood. So, kung decrease yung calcium intake, may increase din yung bone damage. What else? Pwedeng because of radiation, limiting its function, or pwede rin because of systemic diseases. Systemic diseases like sickle cell anemia. This is known to affect the osteoblast and osteoclast activity. And then, pwede ring Gaucher, no? Gaucher's disease. Now, if you can still remember, itong Gaucher disease, no, part of the, if I'm not mistaken, GSD, mga glycogen storage diseases, wherein nagkakaroon ng build-up of fat in the spleen or the liver. Now, that will just not affect those organs, meron din daw siyang effect dun sa bones, making it weaker, no? O direct effect dun sa mga bones, usually, they trigger a vascular necrosis.
Recording stopped.
So that is the end of our topic for today. If you have clarifications or questions, again, feel free to type in our chat box. Just wait for the videos to be uploaded. Tapusin ko lang yung klase ko for today. Again, if you want to revisit, no, merong mga masyadong mabilis na part, you can return to the discussion material and then I will close it until Sunday, ha, para at least mabalikan. Kasi I understand that we are in different situations right now. Pwedeng yung connection nyo, it's not as fast as the others, no? At least mababalikan nyo po yung discussion for today. But the the main fact that you're still attending class right now, thank you so much, no? I don't know kung mahirap sa area nyo or what, no? But thank you for attending class. Now, I have questions here. Paghahaluin po ba each topic? No, magkabukod po siya. Para at least yung focus nyo dun sa isang quiz, yung isang topic lang, then yung isa naman dun sa isa. Now, again, ulitin ko lang, no, for the laboratory, pen and paper po tayo. Always naman that the quiz will start our meeting. So, quiz muna tayo, then discussion. May iba lang sa lab. Lab kasi, quiz, pen and paper, and then discuss. Sa lecture naman, quiz, but sa Canvas po kayo magsasagot. I will flash the questions on the screen and then Canvas po kayo magsasagot. So make sure that by next week, okay po yung mga connections, okay po yung mga devices, and then basta kung meron man pong maging difficulties or challenges on-site, address na lang po natin when it happens. Lab class po next week, sige, for prelims, okay sa inyo ang 8 or do you want to start at 7? Kasi for prelims talagang puro discussion muna tayo for lab. So who among you here wants to start at 7? Raise your hand. O, alam na, walang nagtaas. Ha? So, start tayo ng 8. Sige, that's fine. Kaya naman na siya ng 2 hours para hindi sobrang aga. Alright, so I'll take your attendance first. Please don't leave yet. Again, for other queries, paiwan na lang ako sa chat box so that the others na walang questions, they can leave already for a while. This is Reg 2. Okay. So same drill with earlier. Once I call your surname, you just raise your hand. Then if no more questions, you can leave the Zoom meeting room. Almadin, Alonzo, Antonio John, Antonio Luis, Atabay, and Baldos. Okay, so Alonso still not here. Dalawang Antonio Atabay, Baldos. Alright, thank you. You may leave now. Bolyas, Brobo, Bundo, Kalalang, and Kalalo. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Camado, Camino, Kapanang, Caranza, Combasa, Constantino, and Caranza. Again, we have Kalalo, Camado, Camino, Kapanang, Caranza, Combasa, Constantino, and Coraza. Okay, thank you. Cruz, Angel, and Renmar. Okay, Angel, wala pa din. Thank you. De Guzman, De Jesus, De Leon, De La Cruz, and D. Okay, De La Cruz Princess, wala pa din. Next, we have Espelita, Fernandez, Galang, Galos, and Hongko.